Hello and welcome back to Crafted by Corie. If you're new, I'm Corie. Welcome to my channel, and if you're returning, thank you as always for being here. I'm super excited. These are Christmas in July items. You may have seen them before because they were originally posted last Christmas on my other channel, but I'm getting everything tidied up and getting all my crafts consolidated. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get right on into the crafting.
DIY number one. For this project, I have some leftover pieces of paint sticks that I had cut off for other projects. And you can see they're all different, varying lengths. And I am using my Dollar Tree sanding block to just get them cleaned up a little bit. And now I have a couple of craft sticks that I'm going to cut down to create little brims here. So my paint stick was kind of flying on me, but I managed to snag it back. So they were a little bit too wide, so I went ahead and cut them down the middle as well. And I'm just getting them all lined up. I'm using a straight edge here because I wanted all of my hats to be the same. So I'm really just eyeballing it more than anything else, but I'm doing my best to keep them all the same. And I apologize if you hear what sound like bells jingling. I've actually got Sammy here with me as per usual. So if you haven't been following me until recently, Sammy is my little pup, and he hangs out with me all the time when I'm crafting and when I'm editing my videos, and sometimes he can be vocal. But at any rate, I went ahead and painted the bottom part of this right up to the little brim with Adirondack white chalk paint. And then, as you saw, I had grabbed a few clothespins to hold these up while they were drying. It occurred to me that I was coating all of the sides and I wasn't sure how I was going to do that. So the clothespins came in handy. Now I am coming back with my black chalk paint by Home Decor. And I am obviously painting the little hats on these now. And I was just being real careful as I went around the sides and the back and just made sure that my lines were nice and straight. And then I put them right back in the clothespins to dry. So that actually worked really well. Neat little hack for you. But once they were all dry, I am now using one of my Arteza paint markers. This is an acrylic paint marker. You can use different brands, but I happen to have Arteza. And I am drawing little eyeballs. So basically drawing a circle and then a little bit of a crescent to leave a white spot area. It might be a little hard to see here. I'm hoping it's going to become a little bit more visible. But essentially, you want to leave a portion of your eye white. And then I'm coming in with my bright orange, also by Arteza, and I'm doing little tiny circles, and they get gradually smaller as they go out to the tip of his little carrot nose. So hopefully that makes sense. So just little circles, they get gradually smaller. So now I pulled out a few things from my stash that my sweet subscriber Rose had sent to me. And I tried out those little stickers with the snowflakes, and they were too big for this. And then I had these letters, or yeah, letters. And the first set was a little too small. The next set was a little too big. I needed something that was just right. So I ended up hand lettering it because I didn't have any stickers that were going to be the right size. And I didn't want to pull out my Cricut or anything like that. I didn't want this to be too complicated. So I am just doing block letters. I apologize that my big old hand is in the way there and you can't really see what I'm doing exactly, but essentially just making regular letters, taking my time, drawing the letters, and then making them thicker as I go. So just regular block letters. And once I had that all done, I was going to come back in with my Aleene's tacky, I think it's called tacky glue. It's just you could use regular school glue, it doesn't matter. But I am adding some glue. And again, I know it's hard to see here, but I'm adding some glue to the tops of my letters and to like the little crevices of the letters. And I'm adding in white glitter. Now, a funny thing happened with this glitter. I do not know why, but it turned like a reddish color. I don't know if it was some sort of a chemical reaction with the glue. I mean, it was white when I put it on there. You can see how white it is. And yeah, it ended up turning color when it was dry. So I have pink snow, reddish snow instead of white snow on my little snowmen, but I think it's still cute. So hopefully you'll like it too. But once I had them all coated with glitter, I went ahead and knocked the rest of it off onto my parchment paper. And this allows me to put all of that excess right back into the container. And I love that the parchment paper is already creased because it just makes the job that much easier. So now I am going to stack my little snowmen together so that they can sit upright. My little straight edge was not fat enough, so of course I'm using my sweet tart box because why not, right? So, and I am doing this up against a straight edge because I want these little guys to be able to stand up on their own, right? So we want to make sure that they are all flush at the base. So hopefully that makes sense. But coming in and gluing them at the seams, and then went ahead and added in a pretty generous amount of additional hot glue because it didn't seem like they were going to hold real well. So I went back and at each seam at the back, I added a nice dollop of hot glue. Once it was nice and cool, they were all set. Aren't these cute? I love them so much. So when I was done, I decided I really thought it needed something more. I had that one snowman that was a little bit taller than the rest of them. So I pulled out this fabric that I'd picked up at Walmart. It was $4 for 2 yards, and I thought that was a really good buy. I really like this fabric a lot. I can see myself doing a lot of different projects with it. In fact, I've got another one coming up shortly where I'm going to use this fabric again. So I just cut off a strip. It was probably about 8 inches long and 2 inches wide, and just tied it around his little neck.
DIY number 2.
So I am using these little Dollar Tree gnome head pick things, as well as a clear ornament that I had actually gotten at Michael's, I believe. It was either Michael's or Hobby Lobby. It was end of season. I'm always getting stuff on clearance or at least on sale. So it was probably $1, maybe $1.50. So I had cut down the pick, as you could see, and I took off the little head of the ornament. And so hopefully you're kind of getting the idea that I'm going to be building a gnome here. But yeah, this was interesting. I needed to get rid of that little nubby, and I kept progressing. You guys are going to think I'm insane. Yeah, my miter saw. But you know what? If I am nothing else, I am determined, and we got that little nubby off. And so once I had it off, and I probably should have just used my glue gun, and melted it. I don't know, guys. Where there's a will, there's a way, and sometimes my way is a little bit bizarre. But anyway, got it off, sanded it down a little bit. Word of the wise, you might not want to use a heat gun on this because, yeah, I totally melted my ornament. So, uh, yeah, that'll just be the back, right? So that was the body. I used crimson chalk paint on my little body. And now I am using some gray adhesive felt, and I'm just drawing out some feet. Now I did double it over here so that I can have 2 layers. So it'll be felt on the top and the bottom. This is sticky. So I want the two sticky layers to come together. So I'm just kind of trimming them up and making sure that they are the same shape, etc. So I took off the backings, and now I'm just going to apply them together here. So once we have that all set, I'm just going to make sure I trim off any excess edges. So I'm going to go ahead and apply my little gnome. I had brushed all of his little furry hair out of the way, and I'm going to apply a pretty generous amount of hot glue here. if I can get my glue to go down into the gun. And so then I'm going to pop on the little ornament and just brush his hair down over. And now I'm going to go ahead and add him to his little feet. So just a healthy amount of hot glue on there, set his little bod down, and he is standing. So here is that fabric again, and I am just trying to figure out how wide I want to make it to make little arms. So as you can see, it's probably again about a 2-inch width, but I do have it folded over because I want 2 arms, and I made them probably about 4 inches long. I did just cut that in half. And now I'm going to fold them right side in. So inside out? Yes, inside out. So I can go ahead and create seams. And then once those are dry, or not dry, but cool, you know what I mean. I'm going to go ahead and flip them right side out. And if you have something small like this, you can grab a pencil or something like that. A dowel would work as well, and just roll it through like you saw me do. Now I'm stuffing it with a little bit of fiberfill, and once I have the little arms stuffed, I'm going to go ahead and apply them to his body. So I had just flattened the one end of the arm and sealed it up with hot glue, and that's the end that I am applying just underneath his hair there. So now for his little hands, I've got some more felt, adhesive felt, and I was attempting to draw a mitten and I didn't like what I did. So good thing about pencils, you can always erase, and good thing about the back of this felt, you're going to throw that part away anyway. So I went ahead and cut off a piece that I could fold in half because again, I'm going to be doing front and back to his little mitten hands. So just like we did with the base, I'm going to be doing a front and back for each of his hands. So once I had that the way that I wanted it, and again, I cut out the front and the back, I went ahead and I traced those 2 little mittens so that I would have a right hand and a left hand. Got it. So I wanted 4 total and wanted to make sure that each pair matched. So they are mirrors of each other. So then I went ahead and got his little hand ready. So I sealed up the end of his arm. And over that, I am going to be applying his little mittens or his little hands. So I'm starting on one side and applying it, and then I'm going to take the other and just adhere it to the other piece and kind of sandwich his wrist in between. And then I'll do the same thing on the other side. He's got such a flat back because of my melting issue. But there he is. I think he's so cute. Let me know what you think.
DIY number 3.
So I have these wood ovals from the Hobby Lobby. I believe they were $2.99 for the pack of 2. I've got some fabric. I've got little Dollar Tree Christmas tree, Dollar Tree little mini present ornament things. Actually, I'm not even sure that they're ornaments. I'm not sure what they're supposed to be, but I thought they were super cute. And then I had some picks there. So I'm just taking some parchment paper and I am fashioning somewhat of a template. I wanted to make sure that I had an idea of how large that was. So I'm cutting out a little bit of a pattern, but then I folded it in half and I cut it down more because I want to create like a little rug. So I just wanted to kind of have the right shape, and I don't know. I'm sure that there are better ways of doing this than what I just did, but it was the way that I did it. So I went ahead and cut out a piece of the fabric, and then it occurred to me I probably should go ahead and prepare my wood so it could dry while I was doing other things. So I kind of ignored my fabric there for a second. Sanded down any of the rough patches, and then I am using my Waverly Antique Wax with a baby wipe, and I am just going to make sure that I've got the wood piece completely stained, front, back, sides, all over. Set that aside to dry, and then I went back to my fabric. I'm just cutting out around my little pattern that I had created so that I have my little rug for the little scene that I am going to be creating. Not sure why I decided to show you so much of me cutting, but there we go. So now I am taking my green fabric. This is a little bowl that I've turned upside down because I wanted a circle. So I just took a pencil and it was just dark enough for me to be able to see it on the green. And I cut it out and then I'm folding my circle in half like 3 times. I'm going to trim off the ends just to make sure that they're all even. So it's a really nice, perfect circle. And then I'm going to cut off the tip right here. So right there, I cut off the tip so you can see there's a hole in the center. And then I'm going to clip it. So we have a little tree skirt. Did you see that? So basically create a circle, you cut out the middle, and then, yeah. So I pulled this ribbon out of my stash. This is a Dollar Tree ribbon, and I am just going to run this kind of like rickrack. Oh my gosh, is rickrack even still a thing? My grandmother used to use rickrack. I think my mother even used rickrack. I'm like having flashbacks to the 1970s and some of the clothing that I was dressed in. But at any rate, oh, now I'm aging myself. But I applied that to the edge of the tree skirt just to make it nice and cute. And now I am just setting my little pieces on my platform, so to speak. So I'm coming in with this pick and was cutting these little balls off and then I realized I could slide them right off of the pokey things. So once I had them all prepared, I'm using a little bit of hot glue and I am applying them to my tree like Christmas balls. And this only takes a tiny little bit of hot glue. And you can tell I was getting too much of it. So I was kind of sharing the hot glue. I'd put it on one, rub some of it off on another, and apply both of them at the same time. So just needs a teeny tiny little bit of glue. And it worked like a charm. And I just thought that this was so adorable and really, really happy with how it was turning out. So once I went ahead and had as many balls on there that I wanted, I grabbed this other Dollar Tree ribbon that I had in my stash that I thought looked a little bit like a garland. So I added some hot glue to the tip of that, added that to my tree, kind of stuck it in there, and then I went ahead and I wrapped it around the tree or twirled the tree and held on to the garland so that it wrapped. And then, so I did it from tip to base, and then I just secured it at the base with some more hot glue. And I just glued it in a place where it wasn't noticeable. Um, I know it was kind of hard to see there where I'd glued it. I reapplied my little tree skirt. I've got my little scene going on, my little white rug, and now it's time for the presents and just getting it ready for Christmas morning. So just adding those on, gluing them down where I want them. And I just think that this is so sweet. I love this so much. It makes my heart happy. So the one final touch, I came back in and I was pulling off some more of these little, I don't even know what you would call them, little, I'm going to call them beads for lack of a better term. And I pulled off about 6 of them so that I could create a little silver star. So again, hot glue, just gluing them together one at a time, just adding them around the center bead. And you could use beads for this if you wanted to. There's no reason why you couldn't. It doesn't have to be this styrofoam glittery stuff, right? So whatever you might have in your stash, I'm sure you've got something that you could use. And then adding some hot glue to the tip of my tree and applying my little star. And this one is all wrapped up. Love it.
DIY number 4.
So we've got a couple little gingerbread men. I'm showing you my Sunny Porch chalk paint and my Java chalk paint, which is like a chocolate brown, like a dark chocolate brown. I am sanding my little gingerbread men to get them ready, and we're going to start mixing some paint. Now, I was hoping that the yellow would get me to the color I wanted, but it didn't. I needed more orange. So I went ahead and added some of my pumpkin chalk paint until I got the color I wanted. There was quite a bit of mixing that went on here, you guys. It was not as quick as it looked. But, where there's a will, there's a way. So I had tested it. It was a good color for me. So I went ahead and gave my little gingerbread men a painting. Now, the neat thing about these, and I'd picked, actually, my sister had picked these up at Michael's. The little design is etched into them, so you can see that you can still see it once they're dry. So I'm using chenille stems. Oh, yeah. And I got the googly eyes out of my stash. I've been dying to use these. I think I've had them for like a year and I've not had an opportunity to use them. So I pulled those out. And then I also pulled out some cute little buttons. Those are from a jar of buttons that I'd gotten from the Dollar Tree. And now I'm going to use chenille stems to outline my little gingerbread guys wherever you would normally expect there to be icing, right? When you ice and decorate your gingerbread men, I'm going to be using chenille stems. And I love the chenille stems because you can bend them any which way you want, and they're nice and fluffy, so it's easy to hide the ends. And I did find that it was easier to cut this down in little pieces rather than try to force it to go in and out and back and forth. And so you can certainly do that if you choose, but my recommendation is to cut it down into smaller pieces. I think it's just easier to manipulate and easier to get it to do what you want to do with it. So I'm just going to continue to go around his little body, getting him all handsome and decorated. Just a little bead of hot glue, just following the design that is already laid out on the little gingerbread men. And then I went ahead and added in his eyes. It's just a little bit of hot glue. And then I did the same thing with his buttons, added those in with some hot glue. That I finished off his little face with a little red smile and some little cheeks, literally just a teeny piece of the chenille stem that I had curled around into almost like a ball and applied that as well. And then went for his little bow tie. So I'm essentially making like a figure 8 shape that's got corners to it, for lack of a better term. I think that's the best way I can describe it. So you just kind of form a figure 8, wrap, when you get to back to your starting point in the middle of your figure 8, wrap the tail around the middle a couple of times, and then you can clip it off. Just applied the little bow ties and they were done. I think these are so sweet.
DIY number 5.
So for this project, it's going to be quick and easy. This is a chalk couture project. I am in love. The chalk couture is super simple. It's easy to do. And you know what? I honestly feel like these look store-bought when they are complete. And when there's no operator error on my part because I have, I think this might only be the third time I'm using it. So, I had a learning curve for myself personally because I don't know. I did make sure that I fuzzed it. That was putting it on that little green mat up top. So I had missed that step. I'd forgotten that I needed to do it. And in past projects, and so I did it this time and it worked like a charm. So there, I almost forgot again, right? So I'm going ahead, I'm fuzzing my little pieces, I'm applying them to my sign. So those little stars, I decided I was going to put on either side of the Christmas trees. You could put them over top of the Christmas trees, you could not use the stars, whatever you want. And this is the copper shimmer that I'm using for the stars themselves. And it just goes on with this little squeegee. So it's similar to stenciling, but not quite. So I peeled that off, went ahead and reapplied it on the other side, did the same thing. I'm using the olive shimmer on my little Christmas trees. And then I used the shadow shimmer, which is basically a black shimmer, on my Merry Christmas. And I found that a little of this went a long way, and these transfers can be used over and over again. So while they seem a little pricey at first, when you think about how many times you can actually use them, they're actually not that bad. So now, once it was all dry, I grabbed a couple of large beads, wooden beads from my stash because I want to create a little stand for this so it'll stand up on its own. I'm sorry that the angle is bad here and you can't see where I'm gluing it, but I'm basically gluing it kind of at the top of the bead and between where the bead meets the cutting board. So once it's all dry or cool, I flipped it back upside down and I'm adding some more glue underneath, and I'm going to hold it upside down so that while it's hot, the glue kind of conforms around the bead to give it extra support. And here I am like blowing on it and willing it to be cool and waving at it apparently. But I think this is so sweet. Let me know what you think.
DIY number 6.
All right, I have a whole bunch of little tiny ornaments. Some of these are from Dollar Tree, some of them are from Hobby Lobby. I had them all in my stash, and yeah, this is going to be one of those projects where it's do as I say, not as I do, because I was struggling with how to do this at first, and it took some figuring out in the beginning. I have a little wood round there. I believe that's from Dollar Tree. I think I had like a pack of 6 of them, and I'm not sure what it was from. I just know it's a circular wood piece, but I'm going to use it as my base. Now, I was sectioning these off into little groupings that were going to be receding, right? So I'm going to be creating a tapered Christmas tree. And I thought, well, maybe I can try and tie them together. It wasn't working. I know it doesn't look that bad from this angle, maybe, but from the front, it just wasn't working. It was like a gerbled mess. So, garbled mess, whatever that word is. So I went ahead and started to glue them to the little base, and that ended up working a little bit better for me. And then I started in on my second layer, and I quickly realized that I really needed something in between the layers. So I went into my stash and I pulled out this, I want to say beaded garland or pip berries. I'm not sure what you want to call this, but berry garland, I think. Anyway, I took a couple of rounds of the berry garland and I was using that in between the layers. Now, the other thing that I was thinking might work really well if you have decreasing sizes of wood rounds, that could be really pretty too in between your layers of the ornaments. But the little garlands, the wire garlands, provided just enough support for me between the layers that it worked out just fine. So I had glued the little garland down, and I did that with each new layer. Glued that down, and then added in my next layer of little ornaments. So once I got to the top, I had those 3 there, and then I did not actually use a garland for that last one. All I had to do was take the little cap off of it, flip it upside down, and tuck its little um, stem inside. And then for the finishing touch, I used one of these little Dollar Tree glittery stars that I think it came in like a pack of 6. And I'm very happy.
DIY number 7.
All right, so I have some jingle bells. I've got my jute cord twine and a whole bunch of fabric. Turned out that I didn't need the jute cord twine because I didn't realize that that was actually a garland of bells, but we'll get to that in a minute. For now, I am just ripping my fabric to pieces. So if you just clip the end and pull and tear, you can have really straight lines with your fabric. So it's just a neat little trick, and it makes your little edges nice and frayed, and a little bit more rustic if you like that look. So here I am opening up my bells and discovering, oh, it's a garland. I don't need the twine. I can just use the garland. So I went ahead and started tying on my fabric strips to the bell garland, and I was alternating the colors. I had a white, the buffalo check white and black, and then the hunter green. At first, I was just putting a single strip of fabric in between the bells, and then I felt like it was looking a little bit sparse. So I did eventually go back and add in one of each color between the bells. So there were then 3 strips of fabric. You can see here I'm already doing it between the bells, and that was a much better look, in my opinion. So I just continue to work that around, and I just think this is so easy, so cute, something anybody can do, and you can really make a statement with it. I love it. Let me know what you think.
Here we are with the final reveal.
Okay, everybody, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed the Christmas projects. If you did, please be sure to give me a big thumbs up and leave me a comment. Let me know which one you like the most. And until the next time, be well, be kind, and make it a great day. Thank you so much for watching. Take good care. Bye.